This is a fantastic day for Lenox. It's my privilege to serve today as Master of Ceremonies, and it's also very much my privilege to serve as the Lenox Town Manager. Thank you all very much for being here. Although this project has certainly been ongoing for quite a while, it's not done yet. We still have some more work to do, but we wanted to pause today and really celebrate the accomplishment that the town of Lenox has been able to achieve with this building. For any municipality or any municipal official, it is a lot of work to build a building such as this, whether it's a town hall, a council on aging building, a community center, or a public safety complex that has so much technology and so much function in today's modern world. It takes time, it takes a lot of vision, it takes a lot of communication, and perhaps most importantly, it takes a tremendous amount of commitment across every board. And I can tell you that just in my short time here, the town of Lenox is overwhelming in all of those categories. And I think a round of applause right now for Lenox as a town is really deserving. We have a great day planned for all of you. And one of the overarching contexts that I'd like to share with you today is the legacy of Lenox Public Safety. You're going to see a slide presentation today and a great presentation on some of our founding fire chiefs. But the bedrock of any local government, of any municipality, really is for public welfare. And the way that we share that the most, or show that the most, is with fire protection and police protection. We do serve and protect. Of all of the things that a town is now asked to do in the 21st century, at its basic function core is the men and women surrounding us in uniform. That is what we do as a local government, and often we forget about that. We focus on assessments and taxes and budgets and all of these other works of art. But when people are at their lowest or their most vulnerable, what shows up is a Ford, a Dodge, a Chevy, a Seagrave, something that says proudly on its side, the town of Lenox. And that is what we're celebrating today, is that history and that legacy. And you're going to learn that Lenox has a tremendous amount of that. And it is embedded into this community. And today that's what we're celebrating. We have vintage fire equipment. We have modern equipment. And it's not just the town of Lenox. We have our public safety partners across the region here today. So before we get a little deeper, I'd like to acknowledge some folks that have took time to come here to Lenox. First, representing Congressman Richard Neal at the federal level, Joanne Shagru, thank you. Representing our state legislative delegation, State Senator Paul Mark. Lenox is one of 54, Paul? 57. I forget. Oh, like Hines. State Representative Lee Davis. Lee, thank you. District Attorney Tim Shagru, my former legal partner across the aisle. Sheriff Tom Bowler was here yesterday with some of his staff. Lieutenant Colonel Tom Grady is here somewhere. Tom showed up, but the sheriff sends his regards to everybody. Town staff and volunteers. You're going to see some folks wandering around today with these. They may not wear a uniform, but they've got the uniform of municipality on them. They're going to be around. Thank them. I'm grateful for their time and effort to be here today. Former town manager Chris Ketchen, that really set this vision off. He's hiding in the back. Sorry, Chris. We've said all along, Chris was the first quarterback for the first two quarters, and then I've got the last two quarters on this building. The public and neighboring communities, thank you for coming out, and I see representatives from the construction team. The town visions it, the town designs it, but it's the construction team that actually puts the four walls up. So thank them for being here today. I'm not going to go into any of the details. We have plenty of speakers today. We're going to try to keep this short. At the end of the speaking program, I'll come back, talk a little bit about how we're going to walk around the building and some of the logistics. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Neil Maximilian, representing members of the Select Board that are here with us today. Dave Roach right there, Ed Lane, Max Scherf is around somewhere, I think, and Mary Beth Mitz couldn't meet with us today. So representing the Permanent Building Committee and the Select Board, Mr. Neil Maximilian.
Thanks, everyone. I want to say congratulations to Lenox. Welcome to your new safety complex, and hopefully the safety complex that will serve you for the next 50 plus years. You enthusiastically voted unanimously in December 2022 when we asked you to fund this complex. Now we have a state-of-the-art complex that we've worked tirelessly to design and build, and something that I hope you're all proud of. For years, we recognized the need for a modern facility that would support the vital work of our police, fire, and emergency services. Believe it or not, I sat with Chris and some others in 2015 and we formed then the permanent building committee that had on its list at its first meeting that year, safety and fire, police, EMS. We need to modernize. And here we are today. This new complex fulfills a promise to provide our dedicated professionals with the resources of technology and a safe environment, a relaxing environment to perform their jobs safely and effectively. To the men and women of the fire, police, and EMS services, welcome to your new home away from home. I want you to realize this is for you, and it represents the fact that the town unanimously supported you and thanks you. And that's why we have this new complex. There's a few people I need to thank. First, the members of the permanent building committee that have been with me on this throughout. Ed Lane, Jeff Vincent, Andrew Lane, and Tom Delasco. We've been on that committee since 2015, thinking about the things that Lenox needs, and this is the first accomplishment that represents a new building in Lenox since probably the school. Of course, I need to recognize, and he has been former town manager Chris Ketchen. He had a vision of forming a building committee, recognizing that we didn't have people that were ready to volunteer to oversee work like this being done. I want to thank the select boards for supporting me and the permanent building committee members. You've been very supportive as we've shared our progress with you, updated you on costs, updated you on challenges, and I'm proud to say that what we asked the town to appropriate back in 22, we've stayed steadfastly below that number on budget for this project. In fact, the construction of this project represents below average in terms of extra costs and changes compared to any average vertical building construction being done today. Thank you to the architects and engineers and the construction teams. Without you, without your help, we couldn't have done this. And finally, and they know it's coming, I have to give a special thanks to Chiefs Chris and Steve O'Brien, along with new Chief Bob Casucci, and soon-to-be Chief Smith. As you know, Steve and Chris really like long 3-hour meetings where we sit around looking at plans and talking about siding and what color the carpet should be. I mean, they love that stuff, right? So, knowing that, we're in one of those meetings, and I see their faces, and they're kind of, maybe one's red, one's like not so interested in all this detail. And I said, hold on, okay, I think we got it. And I'm not going to use the word, but I said, let's build some SH. These guys looked at me and said, hell yeah, let's build some SH. And we did. I want to reinforce that this complex is more than just a building. It's a hub for community safety. It reinforces our commitment to the safety of our first responders and to our citizens, and I think it sets a new standard for our community and all of Berkshire County. Thank you.
Our next speaker is retired Fire Chief Chris O'Brien, and I'd like to thank Chris and his brother Steve in particular coming into this project. The reason why I'm so comfortable with it and appreciate it is really the vision of these two guys that took me around and shared with me what the vision was of the town and why we were building it the way it was. The design that you see here today is really them not being concerned so much about today and what the town of Lenox needs, but we built for tomorrow. And the town of Lenox has always done that, and these two gentlemen have certainly carried that tradition. So I won't comment on Fire Chief O'Brien's shoes. I'll let you folks do that. But Chris O'Brien.
Hey!
Good afternoon. In 1909, a fire chief named Oscar Hutchinson had a vision that was to build a state-of-the-art fire department and firehouse located on the land next to the town hall. Chief Hutchinson's accomplishments have served this town for 116 years and are still part of the history of the Lenox Fire Department today, as seen by my uniform I am wearing and the original fire apparatus that is on display. I was asked why the choice of uniform, and the answer, to me, was a simple one. This uniform represents the firefighters that protected the town and the surrounding communities for over 100 years. And I felt this would be a way to say thank you for your time and your service. You are definitely not forgotten and are just as much a part of this ceremony wherever the journey has taken you. In 2019, a team was formed and an aggressive approach to build a public safety building was underway. It was not always a smooth process, but the team forged through their way, making very difficult decisions, but keeping in mind the needs of the departments while staying within a budget. 6 years later, I am proud to stand in front of a state-of-the-art facility, a vision that I had, as did Chief Hutchinson, 116 years ago. The thank yous are many. The Fire EMS department, the police department, the team that was formed, the contractors, the list goes on and on. But the biggest thank you I will say is to the taxpayers of the town of Lenox who overwhelmingly approved this project and believed in it. The support has been tremendous, and the questions have been many, but today we can answer them. The completion of the complex is in clear sight, and we have all dedicated endless hours of thoughtful planning to see this through. I will leave you with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I thank you all again, and welcome.
Our next speaker has become an expert on high-density storage. We can discuss that later. Police Chief Stephen O'Brien.
First of all, I must say congratulations to the girls' volleyball team they have made it into the state Final Four for volleyball, so congratulations to them. But anyway, today I have to talk about my predecessors. So you will see when you go in later on that there are pictures of each police chief. The first police chief in the 60s was Chief Lane. And Chief Lane is standing in one of those pictures near the station then, which if you pulled into the existing fire department now, the door is exactly on your right with two pillars. It was a small two-room newsstand that was owned by the Coakleys prior to the police department moving in. Chief Lane was in there until he left and gave the reins to Chief Romeo. Chief Romeo was in there and hired a couple more police officers during the 70s and had to make some additions to that existing space. Chief Romeo ended his tenure, and Chief Burkle came in around 78 and 79. He too was in that old newsstand for several years until he moved the police station from the upstairs of the town hall to the basement of the town hall where it is today. That basement used to be the town DPW, followed by Lee Sample's small engine repair shop. That became the police department. Chief Burkle was there until 2000, where Chief Face then came in. Chief Face guided a renovation of that existing building, of that existing police station in the basement of the town hall, which is exactly where we are today. So I have to say thank you to the citizens of Lenox who at town meeting in 2022 were asked if there were any questions about appropriating such an elaborate amount of money for this building that now stands behind you, and not one person asked a question about anything to do with that money. That says a great deal about the town of Lenox itself. So congratulations to the citizens of Lenox. I can't wait until you see the interior of the building. We did build for the future. We'll answer any questions that you have, but welcome to the new public safety complex.
As you can tell, our public safety apparatus is in flux. We are in transition. You've heard from two of our longtime chiefs, two brothers, who had a particular vision and set us on that path. We've discussed my predecessor and friend, Chris Ketchen, who got us on that path. And we're now here today with a new building. And the next gentleman that I want to introduce to you, I have the privilege of working with, now seeing how we commission this building and how we work and how we protect the public safety of the future. So as always here in Lenox, we build on the past. We're aware of that past, but we always keep our eye on that future. So the next two gentlemen are that future. First, representing the Lenox Fire Department, Fire Chief Bob Casucci.
Here. Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank you all, citizens of Lenox, generosity and support for our building, as guys before me mentioned. On the other end, I'd also like to welcome you all to our new home. This facility is obviously newer, much larger than where we are now. We're dedicated. We're going to work out of this obviously for decades, and it's going to serve us well. As you tour through the facility today, you'll see all kinds of things that I kind of mentioned. We have current apparatus out front. Inside the bays, there's the antique apparatus. In the back, there's all the current apparatus and some other stuff from out of town that is specialized teams from the region that we have members on. We'll have those members there to answer any questions you have for it. Hinsdale Fire Department's been gracious enough to come down with a rehab unit that they have built out of their own pockets, out of their own station, and they provide that to services throughout Berkshire County and beyond, free of charge for anyone. After today, portions of this building will be limited access, but we're always here. Feel free to come by, ask questions, and tour. And again, thank you all.
When I took the job in Lenox, I was informed about all the retirements that were pending. And I thought, geez, I guess my reputation precedes itself. Everyone's ready to retire. But we were lucky when we went out on our search for police chief. I've always believed that if you hire the wrong person, eventually that wrongness is going to pop up. But in this case, our choice for the next Lenox police chief has already proven himself to be the right choice. He and his wife, Erin, you're here today somewhere. Embarrass yourself, Erin, wherever you are. There you are. They've been here every weekend, even before we gave Chief Smith his offer. So I'm proud to introduce, for the first time, I think, in this venue, the next Lenox Police Chief, Chief Mark Smith.
Well, thank you. Anybody who knows me, who's met me already, knows that I like to talk, so I'm going to try to scale this back because there's so much to say about this. First of all, let alone just the honor and privilege to stand before you, and the honor and privilege to be follow in the footsteps of Chief O'Brien. When I started this, we came out, as it was said, we came out here. We just loved the area. We loved the Berkshires. We loved the town of Lenox. We loved, our daughter went to school at Williams College, so it's always been a passion to be out here at some point. But then we stopped, and when this job came up, I came out, we applied for it. And it is true. Literally, we were up here every weekend because of what this town is. And they asked me to try to explain it. They said, well, why Lenox? And I said, well, I'm going to try to explain what everybody who lives here feels every day. And it's hard to put into words, but I think they understood where I was going with it. When I started this process, I honestly didn't even know they were building this. And then they told me, oh, we're going to have a brand new facility. I'm like, well, that's really cool, for lack of a better term, because our profession, and like every profession, is one of the hardest things to do is to recruit and retain people. And one of the things that a chief is responsible for, and one of the things that is our job, to sit and give the tools to the people on your department so they can do their job. And then I came down here and saw this, and I was amazed right from the get-go. And to steal what Selectman Maximilian said, one of the things I wanted to say is this is far more than a building to me and to everybody standing here in the fire, the police department, EMS. I'm going to speak for everybody and say that he hit it right on the head, right on the nail. This is a symbol to me, as the new guy, of the commitment that the town of Lenox has to their public safety services, to police, fire, EMS, that they stand now behind their services, and that these services are here for those that live here, those that travel here, those that work here. And for me, someone who started this trip 30 years ago in this profession, I've seen a lot of police stations. I've toured a lot of police stations. And when I took the tour of this, which is going to sound funny, and I mentioned it to the select board, and I focused in on this little tiny thing. There was a hose hanging in the wall in the armory's room. And for what this facility costs and all the things that went into it, that hose, it's an air hose that comes into the armory room, tells me that nothing was missed. The team that was put together to do this did an amazing job, like outstanding. That this should be the staple police public safety complex throughout every community. They did it right. One thing that they always do, and I've seen many times when people build facilities like this, they don't build for the future. And that's what's going to keep this building going for a very, very long time. That's what's going to keep attracting people to come to work in the fire service, the police service, the EMS services, because they did it right. And I'm very proud. I mean, it's an honor and proud beyond words to be able to say that this is where I come to work every day. And I'm very proud of the fact that everybody in the public service has that building to be proud of. And this is truly where the Lenox stepped up and proves to me, the outsider, the new person in town, that the support is overwhelming. So personally, I thank everybody here, and I thank the townspeople. You won't be disappointed in what you voted for, because you did it right. You build it, as the new guy said, this is Lenox style. This is how you do things. You do it right, and you do it right the first time, and you all did it. So, thank you.
Representing 57 towns, we're glad to have him today. Spend a little bit of time. I don't know how he does it, but State Senator Paul Mark, please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Congratulations and thank you to the town and people of Lenox. This is amazing. This is a great day. I'm going to say this is the third ribbon cutting in Lenox I've been to in the last 6 weeks. 6 months, excuse me. Not 6 weeks, 6 months. And what that says about Lenox is that you are an inspiration. You're an inspiration because you choose to invest in your community, and you are sending out a signal to the Berkshires, to the rest of Massachusetts, to the world, that this is a place you want to be. This is a place you want to come to, that you want to live, that you want to raise a family, and that you want to stay. And I think that's so important. Jay mentioned I represent 57 communities here in Western Massachusetts. 50 of them are the size of Lenox or smaller. It is extremely difficult for most of these towns to find the resources that they need to make sure that our public safety personnel have the facilities and equipment that they deserve and need every single day. And when you think about the investment that Lenox chose to make, I think back, it happens to be the weekend of Veterans Day, George Washington, our first president, our first general, our first commander-in-chief. And what he said was that the ability of our country to attract soldiers in the future is going to be directly tied to how they perceive veterans of previous eras were treated. The same thing is true for our public safety personnel. And so the fact that you have said to these men and women who are willing to put themselves in harm's way to protect us and keep us safe every single day, we believe in you, we invest in you, is an inspiration, and I thank you all for that. So congratulations, enjoy your new building. There was no state money, so that means it's time to come to us for equipment instead.
What are you doing Wednesday, Paul? Let's have that conversation. We have a lot of space now. As Paul said, we talk about recruitment and retention, and we might talk about a lot of the technical details about the building today and the equipment, but it really takes manpower, the men and women of the fire department, police department. When you walk through this building today, keep in mind it's built to be living quarters and to provide adequate workspace for modern policing and modern firefighting. Years ago, and we'll talk about this today, you're going to see fire equipment from the very first time that fire departments were organized. That equipment is still with us, and it was built for Lenox. It's still here. We have modern apparatus that was built for Lenox that's here in service, and now we have this building. Our next speaker, State Representative Lee Davis, I've known Lee now for quite some time, and she's very much in tune with the needs of public safety across the county. We are a county of about 150,000 people. When you think about it, that alone is about the population of the city of Springfield just to our east. So at some point, we're going to have larger conversations about what's the cost of operating public safety apparatus within the county. And Lee's already on top of that. This building, if that day were to come, Lenox could be a hub for that. But I just want to thank Lee for paying attention to the needs of the men and women in public safety here in Lenox. So without further ado, State Representative Lee Davis.
Thank you. First of all, I want everyone to just take a moment. I'm looking out on all our uniformed first responders, and it is really an overwhelming feeling to really look out. So if everyone can just take a moment and give a round of applause for our first responders. I also want to give a round of applause for the taxpayers in Lenox, because without your belief in community and thinking for the future, this complex would not be here today. So thank you all. Just yesterday, I was at the Legislative Firefighter Academy with Senator Paul Mark and a few of you in the crowd, and we were listening to first responders from all across the Commonwealth, listening to ideas how we could better support our first responders. And what I'm realizing looking out, I didn't have to travel all the way to Springfield to see what we could do to support our first responders. All I had to do is come to Lenox today. So this is really such a testament to the belief in community, to the belief in our future generations, and to the belief in knowing that if you give the tools and the space to our first responders, they'll do the job. They'll look after us, and this is what it's all about today. It's really meaningful. As Jay alluded to, I have 5 bills actually going through the State House right now trying to reform emergency medical services. And every single day as I'm fighting on State House and when I'm working with my colleagues at the State House, we have you in mind. We know how important it is that we can sleep better at night knowing that our first responders have what they need to look after us and to ensure that we are taken care of. So know that you have someone and colleagues at the State House fighting for you, and know that it's not without knowing the support that you've done as a town in belief of this safety complex, this couldn't have happened. I want to thank the select board. I want to thank our old town manager, Chris Ketchen, and Jay Green, and really just the future generations. And it's really, this is a model of community partnership at its best. And, you know, again, our fire and EMS and our first responders don't ask for much. They just want our support and knowing that we have their backs. So thank you to the town for having our region's backs. And I want to say one other thing. You know, it was almost a year ago that the fire at Butternut just down the road started. And I know a lot of these first responders fought in that fire. And by having this public safety complex, this is not only going to help Lenox, it's also going to help our region. So I just want to place that in our mind that it was only a year ago that over 1,600 acres burned, and we had over 400 first responders respond to that fire just around the hill. So this public service complex will really look to the generations that come after us to make sure that we're looked after, and that when we have emergencies such as the Butternut fire, that we are prepared and we have the backs of our first responders. So again, thank you so much, and thank you to the town for believing in this community.
Part of public safety isn't just contained within the individual municipality. It involves working with other agencies. And on the police side of the house, which I'm a little bit more familiar with, having served as a former assistant DA, one of the aspects of this building I was so impressed with, and Jim Hannafin, our architect, and Rudy, you're here somewhere, I give them credit for understanding modern police work. You're going to go down the police hall and you're going to see our evidence room, which I particularly am most proud of. But I called the DA and I said, Tim, you've got to get the office down here. I want the district attorney's office to see how Lenox takes seriously the quality of its law enforcement and its public safety. And that's why Tim wanted to speak today. He wanted to be here because, again, this isn't just a building. This is a building that makes sure that not only can we provide adequate public safety to our community, but when it leaves Lenox, it's also top-notch of high quality. And that's important for the reputation of a community. And having served as an assistant DA, and Tim will appreciate this, when my officers put together a case, we want a conviction and a closure on that case. And this building and the tools and equipment that we give our officers to do that is just that. So without further ado, District Attorney Tim Shagru. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Here, thank you.
Going to contend with the sun a little bit, so I may have to leave that hat on so I can see what I'm doing here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to join the town of Lenox today for the opening of the Lenox Public Safety Complex. I was fortunate to be able to walk through the building this past yesterday. It's extremely impressive. By investing in this building, Lenox has demonstrated the value it places on public safety and the strengthening of the future of Lenox. As district attorney, I have the privilege of working every day with law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency responders throughout the Berkshires. And working with Lenox first responders, I'm always impressed with their commitment to ensure that Lenox is a safe community to live in and to visit. Those who work in public safety know that in order to do the work well, there must be a high level of partnership and teamwork. Often, first responders are housed in separate locations, police in a police department, firefighters in a fire department, etc. However, Lenox created a complex that's different, one that truly fits the work of first responders. In a complex such as this one, first responders are provided with the physical structure that best supports the work they do. With police, fire, and emergency services now operating side by side, this facility will strengthen the work of Lenox first responders. It will allow them to respond more quickly, coordinate more effectively, and ultimately better serve the people of Lenox. Beyond better supporting the work of first responders, the construction of the Lenox Public Safety Complex also represents the town's trust, its value, and confidence in the first responders working for this town. As prosecutors, we rely on the dedication and integrity of our law enforcement partners. We rely on their professionalism, their compassion, and their courage. It's wonderful to see that the Lenox community recognizes the important work of the police, of fire, of ambulance, and other emergency service responders units within this town. When a 911 call is placed or someone is in need of support, Lenox can confidently respond. I also want to take a moment to recognize both Chiefs O'Briens. Since the start of my as a district attorney, Police Chief O'Brien has been a tremendous partner and a team player. Both he and his brother, Fire Chief O'Brien, have dedicated themselves to public safety. They serve a model of putting community over self. Thank you, Chief and Chief, for your job. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who brought this vision to life, and also to recognize the public safety individuals that will work in this building once it opens. They are always present, quietly serving our community, helping to keep us safe, and readily available when we need them. To the people who work there, who are going to work here, this complex is a reflection of you, your courage, your compassion, your commitment to justice, and to our community. This is your building too. It exists to serve you, to protect you, and remind you that justice and safety are not just ideals, they are promises that we renew every single day, and the town of Lenox has done that. I hope today is a reminder of a partnership between first responders, public safety, the community, and again, congratulations to the town of Lenox. I do want to say, walking through yesterday, this is truly the prototype type of complex we want. I invite all municipalities in the Berkshires to come visit this location. We have multiple police stations that are falling apart in the Berkshires, and they need to see this, and the public needs to know, and the voters need to know. Thank you, voters of Lenox. I hope everybody does this. This is a charm. When you walk through there, it's safer for defendants. It's safer for the police. It's safer for fire. It is state-of-the-art recitation of all our evidence. It is just wonderful. Secured in the back, bringing the prisoners in. Having the booking room back there, all secured with the cells. This is a very secure, safe building. It is bulletproof. You'll see that there's all sorts of walls. That this building, once it's armed and in there, is going to be a fortress. And so you ought to be very proud of it. Enjoy the tour. Have a good time. And congratulations to your town, to the Berkshires as well, for you guys are going to help us do our jobs. Thank you.
Okay, folks, ready?
Years old is enough. Yeah. 73. Oh, yeah. My wife laughed because she was all like. Because he didn't cost too much. It was an adequate amount of money for what they did. Yeah. Well, no, isn't it? Yeah.
Bill Rex here. So today we're going to talk about the first two fire chiefs, Oscar Hutchinson and Edward Cap Conklin. But first we're going to talk about the time before there was a fire department. That would have been at the height of Lenox's Gilded Age, the cottager era, when mansions like Shadowbrook and Elm Court, Blantyre and Bellefontaine were built. Now, the millionaires like to have activities like the Gymkhana, where they would race their pet pig, or tennis matches and golf tournaments. One of their pleasures was this Lenox Hill Climb. It was held on October 14th, 1908. So this new automobile technology was all the rage. Cortlandt Field Bishop was responsible for creating the speed limit of 15 miles an hour in town, because he would race at 30 miles an hour. So this was a climb to go up Church on the Hill up to Aspinwall, so it would test the horsepower of the vehicle. This picture is right about where the Academy is now. Across the street is the Clifford Block. Now, when we talk about blocks in this terminology, we're talking about the building. We're not talking about a street surrounded block. So it would be a building with several stores on the first floor and apartments on the second floor, when we refer to as a block. Now, there was some growing concern among the cottagers. Here, for instance, is a picture of the Robeson estate, which would eventually become Groton Place, the current BUTI campus. And on that estate, a barn caught on fire. The stone barn at the Robeson Place in Lenox was burned. The Robeson fire may call attention to the inadequate fire protection of the big houses in Lenox, and something may be done toward organizing a permanent fire department. Well, that was in 1900, and nothing was done. And there was a tragic result of that inactivity. So this is being here in this space. How far have we come? But back in 1909, in the wee hours of Easter Sunday morning, there was a fire that started in that Clifford block. Now, the Clifford family were the contractors of the day. If you wanted your cottage built, you hired James Clifford and Sons. So in that store was dynamite, was turpentine. There was also a jewelry store, and so there were various theories about how the fire started. And here's a picture with those urchins in the front standing about where that Clifford block used to stand. So Lenox has only a small, unorganized volunteer fire department, and until aid came, the flames spread rapidly. So There was a call put into the Pittsfield Fire Department, the Lee Fire Department, the Lenoxdale Fire Company, which was formed, I believe, in 1902, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, came to the aid. A large swath of downtown was burned. Fire started in the Clifford block. It spread to the Eddy block next door. Then the wind shifted and it spread to the Bull block, the Mahana block, Mrs. Cowig's ice house, and some outbuildings from the Mahana block, Joseph Regnier's home and a tenement house, Mrs. Rose Colbert's house. I don't think she was Colbert. And the Fenwick blacksmith shop. So you can see a big part of downtown burned. Now, part of the problem was it had such a head start, and when the Lenox Hose Company came, they had about 100 feet of hose, and half of it was rotted out. So they had almost no way of fighting this fire. Because the fire had gotten such a head start, when the fire departments from the other towns made it into town, they realized that the Clifford block and Eddy block were beyond saving. But the Rogers home next door was catching fire, and it took 6 attempts. They would put the fire out, it would catch again. After the 6th try, they were able to finally save the Rogers house. However, the Rogers electric shop was in this building, so we weren't able to save Mr. Rogers' electrician shop. This is the Mahana block. This building it still exists in Lenox. It's that brick building next to Frankie's restaurant, so they did rebuild from the shell. Nearby on Franklin Street was the Tillotson livery. They had 60 horses, and there was a fear that this building would be next. So Mr. Tillotson let the horses run free, and they were chasing the horses down as far as Great Barrington. Luckily for Mr. Tillotson, the place did not catch on fire. Another place that did not catch on fire was Morse's Garage. So this was on the corner of Housatonic Street and Church Street. And there was a young proprietor by the name of Oscar Hutchinson who ran the garage. And when he was aware of the fire, he came running over because there were 500 gallons of gasoline in that garage. So he did not want that to catch on fire. However, he was still in his pajamas, and all he had was a garden hose. So he got on top of the roof of the barn next door and trained the garden hose on top of the garage and saved the garage. Now, who was Oscar Hutchinson? His dad was the station manager for the New Lenox Railroad Station, and also lived in the house. The house and station were the same building. He attended and graduated from Williston Academy in 1905. His class prophecy or final destination, he believed he would end in an explosion. His senior thesis was the development of the automobile. And his classmates said he reeked of gasoline. We have at the library the records of the Morse auto garage. They also reek of gasoline. So he kept a streak going. And here's his graduation portrait. So after this devastating fire, the town decided it was beyond time So the fire was in May of 1909. No, the fire was in April of 1909. In May of 1909, town voted to create a fire department, and they appointed Oscar Hutchinson as the chief engineer. Then they met to discuss, well, we need some fire apparatus. And there was a big argument. Do we get a horse-drawn steamer, or do we buy one of those new fancy automobile trucks? And it was quite the contentious town meeting. There was an accusation of grift by the losing faction, because the winning faction settled on the horse-drawn steamer. And if you haven't been to see the antique apparatus, this steamer is that 1873 Amoskeag steamer, which is on display in one of those bays. Right now, you can see this picture. This is Orbed Pond, which is now Orbed Field in Lenox, near the St. Anne's Cemetery. So they were doing a test run. Now, you might think, why would they pick a horse-drawn carriage as opposed to wouldn't the truck be faster? Well, keep in mind, again, high speed for a truck might be 30 miles an hour, so it probably would have been neck and neck, which would be faster. However, one drawback to the horse-drawn vehicles is the vehicle would be at the fire station, but somebody would have to come with their team of horses and hitch up to the apparatus before they could even get to the fire. And any of the firefighters will tell you, moments count. So we had yet another town meeting at the end of 1909, and funds were appropriated for a truck which was ordered in 1909 and built and delivered in 1910. It's an American LaFrance, serial number 1. That truck is also on display in our antique collection. It is being taken for a test drive at the new fire station, which was built in 1910. And it was built by the Clifford brothers. So they were trying to make good on this calamity. So you've got Chief Hutchinson at the wheel, and here they are test running it on Walker Street, about where the entrance to Sloan's Tavern and Mirabelle is. Chief Oscar Hutchinson at the wheel with Eugene Mackey, Howard Joyner, and James Toulon on Walker Street. By 1913, there was a barn fire at Eastover, and Harris Fonstock was pleased with the promptness and efficiency of the fire department. So we've come a long way from 1909 to 1913. In 1917, our boys were going off to World War I. There were men who were a little older who stayed home to protect the home front. So here's a photo of the Massachusetts State Guard, mustered in 1917. And here in that center is Captain Oscar Hutchinson of Company G of the 20th Regiment. Pictures taken in front of the old center school, and that's where the guards held shooting drills. And the shooting range was on Willow Hill. And here is the muster card, which we have in the library's collection, for Captain Hutchinson, and the list of equipment. This company was outfitted by Major George Tenor. He was married to a descendant of John Patterson. So those of you who attended the talk on the Lenox Minutemen who know that John Patterson was responsible for outfitting the Lenox Minutemen, that runs in the family too. So Major Tenor of Beaupre made sure that these men were all fitted for service. This company responded to, there was a riot in Boston, so they were actually called into duty. So Oscar was renting from Tillotson. His house was on the corner of Main Street and Franklin Street. And in 1929, that house was picked up and moved to Tucker Street. So the picture above shows the house on Main Street to the very left, and the picture below shows the current house, which is, it's actually been restored. Hutchinson was known for his skill with mechanics. Not only was he skillful with the fire trucks, but he was appointed by the county commissioners for snow removal. So he created some tractors and made sure that the county roads were clear. And here's a couple pictures of his garage. You know, it went from Morse Garage to Hutchinson Garage. The Hutchinson Garage was built on that corner of Main and Franklin, so where the current gas station is. In 1924, Hutchinson convinced the town that we needed engine 2, which was another American LaFrance, and I believe the 24 is also on display. Folks, do we need to shut some of these windows down? I'm seeing some coats being put on, so do we want to lower them so that the windows are more of a crack rather than a draft? That'd be great. The Hotel Aspinwall. So the Curtis Hotel was the hotel of choice for visitors until the dawning of that automobile age. And in 1902, the Hotel Aspinwall was built. It was a 400-room hotel. It's hard to get a picture of this hotel all in one picture. And as a matter of fact, at the top of the hill, now this view is on Bald Head Mountain looking across the valley. So if you look, you can see that's how big that hotel was. And it had state-of-the-art powerful pumps capable of discharging 1,000 gallons of water per minute, supplying an independent fire system. So this was guaranteed never to burn. That's if your fire starts inside the building. And that's if the system was hooked up and ready to go because it was in season. But Lenox had an off season back then, and the hotel was not open for business. So when what was believed to be some kids in a car smooching and throwing their cigarette caused a fire on the outside of the building. And this was the result. So they couldn't use that tank. The nearest hydrant was on Hubbard Street across from the Dewey, the Birchwood Inn. It was a 4,000-foot run with Pittsfield and Lee fire departments helping the Lenox Fire Department pushing water uphill. So there wasn't a lot of chance for the Aspinwall to be saved. Luckily, it wasn't in season, so there weren't any guests. So the call came in, and Hutch looked out his window and saw the glow, and he knew right away where the fire was. 2 years later, his son, Oscar Jr., was ready to graduate from Lenox High School. And Oscar Jr. had a good friend by the name of Edward Conklin, class of 33. And the Conklins lived on Tucker Street in a duplex. That duplex was across the street from Oscar Hutchinson's house at 15 Tucker. Now, Cap, from what I can tell, joined the fire department in 1935. He was a bunker. That meant he stayed at the firehouse and was ready to take calls as they came in and could alert the fire chief that there was a need for the fire department. He kept a tractor at the neighbor's garage, the Stewart-Waltz, which he used working at Elm Court. And here's the tractor at work across the street, and you can see Hutch's house in the background. Now here's a picture with Cap and his good friend and future son-in-law, Peanut Benite. That was the label? Chris is looking puzzled.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, good. And that, did I say son-in-law? As soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, that's not right. What's not right? His brother-in-law. And here he is with his army buddies at Fort Knox, because Cap enlisted in the army for World War II. And those of you who know Cap know that he knows how to tell a good story. So one day we make tea with the shaving water, and the next day we shave with the tea. So all in all, we are quite all right. Right? Staff Sergeant Edward Conklin from somewhere in Egypt. That somewhere in Egypt was for the Battle of El Alamein. And here is a AP photo taken in 1942. And here's that same photo as it made the AP wire and made quite a few of the daily papers. There's a July 1942 written below that picture. That scrapbook is from the Lenox Library collection. I believe that handwriting is his sister Judy Conklin Peters' handwriting, because she was a long time, when I took this job, I was told, you have big shoes to fill. And I said, you are absolutely right. So those of us who remember the Puppet Lady and Miss Judy owe a great debt to her. She wrote to Cap, your picture certainly caused a furor in Berkshire County. Here's Cap's appointment as sergeant. And here's a photo of Cap. You can see on his arm he has the 3 stripes for the master sergeant ranking he had attained at this point. And he was promoted to lieutenant in 1945. And here's a portrait of Cap, and you can see there's a silver bar on his hat, which indicates his lieutenant status. Here's an example of what's called V-mail or victory mail. If you can picture all those men overseas writing home to mother as Cap did, the strain on the postal service would have been immense. So what they did is they would type up the letter, and then the letters would be microfilmed. So now you're mailing microfilm rolls rather than big bags of mail. Then it would come to the States and it would be printed, however, not on full-size paper. It was about 4 by 6, maybe a little bigger. So these were the mail. This was the mail form that Cap would send to his family at home, particularly his mother. I now use 3 pair of regular sock, then wrap my feet in burlap, fill the overshoes with straw, and believe it or not, my feet are warmer than when I have boots on. In this letter, he also compares one of the bombed out cities to the Hotel Aspinwall times infinite number. So picture that burned out building, but over a good section of a city. One thing that's also in common with a lot of these letters sent by Cap, not worry about me. Almost every letter that he sent was, don't worry about me, Mom. And here's another, don't worry. I don't know how convinced he was to his mother because he was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. He did say, "This is being written for me by a little Red Cross worker because the fingers on my right hand are banged up at present. However, they will be okay soon." Well, they were okay, but he never completely recovered from that injury. Cap earned a Bronze Star, at least 3 battle stars, the American Defense Ribbon, and the Purple Heart. And I'd like to take this opportunity, because we are so close to Veterans Day. If there are any veterans in the room, would you please stand so that we can show our proper appreciation for you? We thank you for your service. Well, Cap did come home, and in 1947, he was appointed as an engineer and caretaker of the Lenox Fire Department. It's also the first year he ran for assessor. He had a 53-year career as assessor, which was the longest career length of any town official. And now this is where we start to see Hutch and Cap working together. Hutch is now approaching elder statesman status, and he was working side by side with Cap. So, for instance, they are testing out new forest fighting equipment with this handy billy, and the caption reads, "Fire Chief Oscar Hutchinson and Edward G. Conklin of the Lenox Fire Department man forest fire hoses to demonstrate this new equipment." And it's time for Lenox to buy a new truck. I think this is the one truck we don't have currently. It is a 1946 Buffalo truck, engine 4. It was appropriated in 1942, but because of the war, it was delayed arriving in Lenox in 1946. And I understand that had it delivered in 1945, that bumper would not be chrome because there was no chrome available during the war. So we were lucky we waited till 1946 because we got a nice shiny chrome bumper out of it. At that time, the department decided maybe it was time to retire that horse-drawn steamer. Now this truck would be put through its paces 10 years later in 1956. So here's a picture of Shadowbrook. Now, most pictures that we see of Shadowbrook are from the lakeside. That's the nice view with the porches. You don't see this view that often because, like Hotel Aspinwall, it's hard to get the full cottage in a picture because it was so huge. It was the largest mansion in the country until the Biltmore was built in North Carolina. So this driveway would have been the driveway that Cap would have arrived when he saw the building on fire and a bunch of priests up on the roof sitting on the gutter with flames below them. So the word came in that there was a fire. The fire alarm the wires had burned out, so this priest held on, made the call, finally got through. That priest did not survive because he was in the building too long. And that call went to Mary Shalley, who was a switchboard operator. His grandson and I went to school together. She called Hutch, who called Cap and said, "Take the Buffalo, I'll meet you there with the LaFrance." Now, by the time other help arrived, including the LaFrance, Cap had already rescued 10 priests. There were no other people to be rescued at that point. It was too late to save Brother Perry. Cap tried. He had an oxygen mask. He put his leg over the windowsill, and it was like a blowtorch, he said. The heat was so bad. So he was unable to rescue Brother Perry, but he tried 3 times to rescue. But he did rescue 10 other priests. In one set of priests he rescued because the ladder was not quite long enough to reach them. So there's a nearby oil tank. Now you picture this. This building is on fire, and Cap is putting this ladder on the tank so that he could reach those priests. Another pair of priests, Cap could not put that ladder up against the building because, again, it's on fire. So he, with his strength and that wounded hand, was holding that ladder so that they could come down the ladder because he couldn't rest it against the building. So the strength and the courage that Cap showed, and he said, I was just doing my job. Now, he was given a citation to add to his other medals from the Stickles-Tourneur post of the VFW. Now, in 2009, the VFW had lapsed, and it was reconstituted and renamed the Conklin Lane Coakley VFW. And so we start to see again Cap and Hutch working in conjunction with Cap being the first to arrive. For instance, I mentioned Beaupre earlier. This is Beaupre burning down in 1961. So Cap was the first to arrive, and Chief Hutchinson would call for other aid. It was the same situation when the El Dorado burned in 1967. Cap was quoted in the paper that the fire was difficult because of the several false roofs of the bar on the bar. And here's a photo of our 2 chiefs side by side. We have Chief Hutchinson, who becomes ill in 1967, and Cap Conklin is appointed acting fire chief until Oscar Hutchinson succumbs to his illness in 1968. Now, Cap continued the example set by Hutch by making sure the fire station had the state-of-the-art equipment that they could have. He made use of the Lenox Fire Company, which is distinct from the Lenox Fire Department. That would be the volunteer corps. And that Lenox Fire Company remodeled the interior of the fire department, free labor, material at cost, and also received donations to provide plectron units. These were stationed in key firefighters' houses, including Cap. I understand that Cap kept his on the work table in the gun room, which became Christine's bedroom. But I think Christine, that bedroom was and gun room were not the same at the same time. Oh, good. All right. And those of us who remember the fire whistle codes all remember hoping to hear 22, because that meant there was no school. The fire department has had a long history of a culture of camaraderie. On the left, you see the Lenox Fire Department's ball in 1925, held at the town hall. Believe it or not, that's the current stage at the town hall. And on the right, you see a 50th anniversary ball, also held at the town hall. And boy, did they like to party. It had dancing until 2 a.m. They were also known for their clam bakes. I'm hoping that there was a fire truck nearby because it looked like there was some charcoal broiling going on there. Brian Stewart was a student at Lenox High in 1999, and at that time, an English teacher by the name of Shirley Vincent assigned an Our Town Ourselves project. And Brian's project was on the Lenox Fire Department, and he interviewed Chief Conklin. And he asked him what was the best thing about being in the fire department. He said the comradeship. And I think we still see that today. Here's the 1971 4th of July parade lineup. And Hutch also liked a good parade. Here he is on now there's a 1909 sign on that truck. You can say that the truck's from 1909 because that's when it was ordered, or you can say 1910 because that was what it was built. I leave that up to you to pick which year. And on the right is Cap in the same uniform that we saw retired Chief Chris O'Brien wear, and he's riding with Dr. Bob Coakley for the Lenox Tub Parade. So Chief Hutchinson and Chief Conklin were the two chiefs from 1909 to 1981. And we've had Jack Stringer, Jeff Lane, Daniel Clifford, Chris O'Brien, and Bob Casucci since. I don't know how long Bob Casucci intends to be our chief. I hope he is for a good long time. Actually, Danny Clifford was the second longest tenure. I think Cap might have been the second longest if Hutch had retired a little earlier, but they worked well together. So I think you'll agree that after 115 years of that Clifford-built fire station, it's time for a new facility. You can see the 1905 La France on the left that fits with plenty of room to spare. And you can see on the right is a current picture. Those trucks have to be retrofitted to fit in that station. So that I don't think is going to be a problem going forward. So I'd like to thank Lenox Library Association for having those materials, the Lenox Historical Society, and especially the family of Cap Conklin.
So I'm Cap's daughter, Christine, and this is my sister, Kate. We were just saying, God, I don't know, how did he get that name? But we think that his father, Edward George Conklin Sr., wore a cap in his job as a chauffeur for the Bishop estate and for some of the other big families in town during those early years of the 20th century, and when cars were being invented. And so he wore a cap and was called Cap. And perhaps his son, who had the same name, also had the same nickname and was Cap, because his Betsy, you probably remember, he was always called Cap. Yeah. So we have her with us today, Betsy Fitzpatrick and Skip Galvin, who are Cap's only niece and nephew. Despite the fact that he had 4 sisters, he had only one that had children. So it's a pleasure to have them here, and we're so grateful to Amy for this fabulous talk.
Okay.
Entire history.
Thank you, Christine. I don't know if you caught it, but the materials from the World War period came from Cap's mother's scrapbook, and there's a lot of material that I left out, but we have it digitized and part of our collection, our digital collection. So, who else has questions? All right, I saw Dave Roach here. All right.
Well, oh yeah, now I can see everybody. Cap and I we're close friends. We did a lot together over the years. He kind of took me under my wing. He was proud of the fact that my brother and I and the other town guys went into the service. He was just really a genuinely nice person. His language, on the other hand, could be a little bit suspect, but he certainly meant well. And he was a fixture at town hall. Anybody who went there could get a cup of coffee and a lot of conversation. I remember one story of a tourist walking into town hall wanting some information. They wanted to know about housing, they wanted to know about schools, and they said, "Is this a healthy town to live in?" This cat said, "Well, for Christ's sake, we had to shoot somebody to start a cemetery." I'm not sure what happened to that individual. Maybe located here or not. But yeah, that was Cap, and I miss him. I miss him every day. I mean, I was so totally honored to be a pallbearer in his funeral, and I don't stop by the cemetery without saying hi. So thank you all for coming today, and God bless Cap and Hutch.
That's great. Did I do okay? That wasn't meant to get applause. It was more, did I get anything wrong? No? Good. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Yes.